The glass didn't just break it, picked aside. 1 second, the patio was quiet, and sun washed the next. There was a crack like a starter pistol, and diamonds skittered across the stone, and then I saw it. The hand that was supposed to wear my ring clamped around my 5-year-old's arm like he was a bag. Someone was trying to steal. You ever feel your brain go cold first and your body catch up later? Yeah, that. If it were you, what would you have done? I wasn't supposed to be home. I'm the guy who lives by calendars, who texts before I walk through a door, who thinks control is love. But a meeting ended early. The driver took the hedges too smooth in the Hamptons, and I walked into my own house ready to skim a contract phone in one hand, briefcase in the other. And there it was, a little boy, frozen, my fiancée, Brooke, with her nails digging in, and Tiana, the woman who makes this place a home, stepping in like a wall that learned how to move. "That's enough," she said, low and final, and the way she said it made me look up from my screens and actually see what was happening in my house. Pattern interrupt. My phone slid out of my hand, hit the tile. I didn't even blink. What happened? I asked, voice calm in that dangerous way, like a door closing one hinge at a time. Mason tried to swallow the tears, that shaky kid breath you try to hide when you think emotions are expensive. "I dropped it," he whispered. "She hurt me." I stepped closer and saw it faint, but rising on his skin, not hospital, not stitches, but not nothing, not in my house, not to my kid. I looked at Brooke, and the room narrowed to a tunnel. "You put your hands on my child," I said every word. "Heavy, we're done." She laughed too loud for how quiet the air had gotten. "You'll throw this away over a tantrum for a maid." And I said her name because names matter. Her name is Tiana, and we're done. After the door, after the heels, there's a silence. Nobody warns you about. It sits on your chest. It counts your breaths. It makes you notice the small things you ignore when the house is performing wealth. The way a kid's fingers clutch fabric like it's a lifeline. The way a woman rocks on her heels without thinking, because she's spent years holding storms still. I had built the life you're supposed to want: charts and algorithms, jets and rooms that open when I speak. But there's a truth you don't graph. My son didn't run to money. He ran to safety. He ran to the person who chose him with no camera on. That night, we did this most radical thing I've done in a decade. We made pancakes, blueberry, too much syrup, flour on the floor, like snow. Tiana put Mason on a stool, let him stir the batter like a scientist, discovering gravity. And I sat at the island, like a tourist in my own kitchen, learning the language where laughter means safe and sticky fingers mean we survived the day. If it were you, would you have called lawyers, pushed statements, gone to war on the internet? Or would you have turned the phone off and learned where the kid forks live? You know what I mean. When he finally fell asleep on the couch, dinosaur plush under his chin, Tiana brushed a curl off his forehead and said it so soft I almost missed it. He doesn't deserve to be afraid in his own home, and the honesty of that line cut through more noise than any PR plan I've ever paid for. In the morning, I tried to be present, not poetic, just present. I burned the first toast, cut fruit like a man afraid of knives, asked where the cinnamon lives. Tiana didn't praise me or roll her eyes. She just made space for clumsy love to practice. Later, I saw her notebook on the table, beat up cover grocery lists and allergy reminders, and in the corner, small like a secret, one word: dreams. I didn't comment. I folded the page with care and put the word in the part of my head that isn't for margins or multipliers, just for meaning. I wish the world left us alone long enough to learn each other. It didn't. By lunch, the whispers had gathered into headlines. Billionaire dumps, fiancé for the maid, from nanny to home wrecker, glossy pictures, crooked angles, Brooke in perfect light, telling a perfect story to cameras that don't ask questions. And right there, the oldest trick: turn a woman like Tiana into a caricature, and people will buy it without receipts. You've seen it before, right? The coded words, the winked racism, the class jokes in the comments. My jaw was steel. "I'll hire the best legal team," I said statements. We shut this down, and Tiana, with Mason tucked into her side, shook her head. "Just make sure he's safe, that's all I need." Do you think that's fair? Because the poison wasn't sharp enough to sue easily, but it stained old photos of me with past girlfriends spliced into a narrative that never happened. A thread calling Tiana calculated, climbing the kind of words that shrink you without sounding like they did it. I turned the screen to her, waiting for fire. She didn't flinch. "They're not tearing me apart," she said. "They're trying to make me smaller than I am." There's a difference, and that sentence moved furniture in my head. I realized I'd spent years countering narratives with power, when the better move was to refuse to be shrunk. So we cooked again, pancakes for dinner, Mason made stars, and a blob he named rocket ship, syrup pooling like amber, and that sound you forget you love filled the kitchen, a kid laughing because the adults finally stopped performing and started being. Outside, though, the storm sharpened another blog. A couple leaked emails. The stock dipped like a warning light. Investors whispered the words that mean keep your house tidy, optics. Distraction, house staff, and the old me reached for the wheel. That's when I saw the notebook again. Dreams had grown into two more words, hearth and honey. "Is that a project?" I asked, pretending casual I didn't feel. "A small place," she said, eyes steady, warm food. No glass walls, no apologies, just belonging. I took a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. "You're not small," I said, and I meant it. "You're the only person in this house who actually sees him, who actually sees me." And she cut the toast into stars without breaking eye contact. "Don't say that because you feel guilty," she said, kind, but straight. And I shook my head. "I'm not guilty, I just finally know what this is. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind." We went to the Whitmore Labs charity gala, chandeliers like constellations, cameras like mosquitoes, money dressed up as benevolence, and narrative for sale by the plate. Brooke came early in white that photographed like innocence. You could feel the room lean toward her version before the night even started. At the back, Tiana held Mason's hand. Navy dress, no sparkle, just steady, and every flash made him grip tighter. "Do we have to stay?" he whispered. "We'll be fine," she answered, kissing his head. They called my name. I glanced at them for alignment, not permission, and climbed the steps. Here's the twist, and I promise I didn't stage it. From the press area, a woman stepped forward, camera hanging slightly crooked badge that said freelance, voice that said facts. "You'll want to hear this," she told the AV tech, handing him a drive. The screens behind me flared to life, not gossip receipts, audio of Brooke negotiating with a tabloid editor, timestamps that didn't lie. Texts plotting edited clips, emails laying the ground to smear Tiana before any footage existed. No narration, no dramatic music, just proof. Brooke went still, the edges of her mask cracked. The room shifted in that way expensive rooms do when they realize they bought the shiny lie, because it was easier than the plain truth. I took the mic, and for once the speech didn't matter. I had remarks, I said, but what you saw speaks louder. And I looked straight at the back, where Tiana stood. Mason pressed to her side. I let lies live because I thought silence would protect the people I love, but silence protected the wrong things. The applause wasn't a movie. It came hesitant, a correction more than celebration. A few stood, then a few more, and I didn't soak in it. I walked down straight to the only two people in that room that mattered to me. "I'm sorry," I said to Tiana. No angle, no PR muscle, just bone deep. And she searched my face for the theater she's seen too often, thank you, she whispered. Not because it fixed the world, but because it was finally a step that wasn't about me. We left. Cameras nipped and then lost interest. The next days were cleanup retractions in font-size 9-tone shifts without apology, sponsors stepping away from Brooke like a tide going out, her PR team evaporating, and somewhere in there the offers started pouring in, producers selling redemption magazines, pitching Maid to mogul brands, dangling checks tied to contracts that smell like cages. Your story could inspire millions, they said. And Tiana listened, and then she smiled that quiet line she has when she's already decided, I don't want to be a symbol. I want to build something that belongs to me and to people like me. If you were me, would you push her to take the money secure, the bag optimize the moment, or would you sit down and make coffee and listen? I sat. Our long table turned into a different kind of boardroom, no suits, just notebooks and flower fingerprints. Tiana called her circle Donna May, with an apron stained by 1,000 Sundays, and recipes older than the internet, Chef Luis, my friend, who knows food and humility, Victor, an accountant, who understands numbers and women-led startups without condescension, Mason nearby drawing a dinosaur with a wooden spoon next to a crooked sign that read, Hearth and honey. He held it up like a flag. Perfect, Tiana said, kissing his hair. I watched from the corner and learned more leadership in 2 hours than I did in years of playing mogul. They didn't posture, they built. Donna deferred to Tiana naturally. Luis listened before he advised Victor, bent his spreadsheet to fit her dream, instead of forcing her dream to fit his spreadsheet. Tiana didn't perform authority, she embodied it. That night, when the house quieted, I slid a small envelope onto the counter. Inside was a simple key with a tag in my handwriting. Storefront Dean and Hoy, yours. If you want it, no conditions, no ownership, just space, just trust. She held it like future, and history weighed the same for once, and I stood outside with my coffee, deliberately not watching, because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is not center yourself. The next days smelled like primer and cinnamon. Teenagers painted signs for pie neighbors, dropped off mismatched chairs, and said, keep the IOU. The ovens arrived late, and I paced until Donna laughed. You don't fix delays, baby. You season them like stew, and I shut up and carried boxes. Opening night wasn't a ribbon cutting. It was a line curling around the block like the neighborhood had been holding its breath inside. Tiana moved with that quiet grace you can't teach, apron dusted with flour, wise, bright voice low and sure, Mason in a tiny apron offering water like crystal. Welcome to Hearth and Honey, he said, proud enough to stand taller by 2 inches, and I stayed half in shadow, present without steering, grateful without making it a show. Near close when the noise settled into murmurs and plates clicked like punctuation. At the end of a good paragraph, I set a folder on the back table. Not a contract to claim her dream or a deal to brand this as my generosity, nothing that would turn belonging into ownership, just legal recognition of the family we had become by choice and action, the kind that protects a child, and the woman who protected him first, the kind that says paper will reflect what the heart already knows. She read slow hands, steady but not without tremor, then signed no confetti, no speech, just the soft relief of doing the right thing on a regular night. And if you think that's the end, it isn't because money didn't save us, access. Smoothed a couple edges, sure, but the real fight wasn't about resources. It was about a system that decides who belongs before it learns their name. It was about how fast a room will lean toward a polished lie. It was about a reflex that turns a black woman who stepped in front of Hoss harm into a story people think they've heard before. And I'm telling you straight, my silence almost fed that reflex. Presence is a kind of power protection. is a kind of love that wears an apron more often than armor, and accountability isn't a press release. It's work, daily, unphotogenic, sometimes pancake sticky. So I'm asking you, if it were you, what would you have done when you saw that bruise rising on your kid's arm? Would you have set the world on fire, or turned the phone off and made dinner? Would you have defended the truth in a room that prefers a comfortable lie? Would you have handed over a key without writing your name on someone else's dream? Do you think that's fair? Or do you think I overcorrected because I was ashamed I didn't see it sooner? Yeah, that happened to me, and it rearranged what I count as success. Hearth and Honey is open, no velvet rope, no glass walls. The menu is simple and stubborn, biscuits that taste like memory cobblers that feel like hugs. You didn't know you needed a little chaos with your cinnamon, because life doesn't plate itself perfectly. Mason keeps a step stool behind the counter and thinks he runs the joint. Tiana leads, without raising her voice. I stock flour and wipe tables and learn every day that presence is harder and holier than power. As for Brooke, you're curious. There were consequences, contracts dissolved, friends turned into numbers that don't pick up. An apology came through an attorney that sounded like a committee wrote it. I didn't respond, not because I don't believe in forgiveness, but because forgiveness without accountability is just reputation. Rehab, if she does the work for real, I wish her better rooms and better choices. Here's where I leave it open on purpose, because I want you talking in the comments. Not just nodding along. Should media be liable when it amplifies a lie? It should have known was a lie. Or is that the price of a culture that loves a shiny scandal? When a wealthy man defends a woman who works in his home, is that protection or performance? Where is the line between help and control, between giving a key and taking over the house? I know where I stand, but I want to know where you stand. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me the moment the glass chose sides in your life and what you did next. If this story hit somewhere real, stick around the next chapter of Hearth and Honey. Surprised even me. And if you're new here, subscribe. Send this to someone who thinks optics are everything. Then drop your take below, argue with me. Defend. Tiana, make the case for Brooke. If you must share your own kitchen table story, because family isn't always who shares your last name. It's who steps between you and the storm, who hands you a key and doesn't put their name on it, who stays when the lights of the room lean the wrong way and says, "We're not shrinking today."